Imagine you've poured years into building your financial life, diligently saving, investing, making all the right moves. Then, seemingly overnight, economic forces just sweep in, things totally beyond your control, and it feels like everything is just unraveling. What then? Do you just throw your hands up? Or is there maybe a way to hit that financial reset button, truly start over, and still build towards, a rich future? Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into precisely that question. We've pulled together a pretty comprehensive framework, drawing insights from foundational financial planning principles and recent market analyses to explore how you can regain your financial footing and really thrive no matter the challenges life's thrown your way.
It's actually remarkable when you look at it, the inherent resilience of the human spirit, especially when we're confronted with significant adversity. Our primary source material for this deep dive today offers a powerful testament to this. It outlines 11 essential steps that guide individuals not just through financial recovery, but actually towards genuine prosperity. So we're going to systematically explore this process, breaking down how one can genuinely start over, finish rich. Look, this isn't about blind optimism. It's really about a pragmatic, structured approach that's been proven effective, even, in the most turbulent economic climates.
Okay, so where do we begin this journey of financial renewal? Our first crucial step is, it's fundamental. Recommit to wealth. To really get the significance of this, consider a story shared in our sources. It's about a woman named Georgia, whom the author met in Manhattan back in 2009. Georgia was, by all accounts, doing great financially. A real success story. She'd meticulously followed sound financial advice, saved up nearly $70,000, built a solid 6-month emergency fund, completely paid off her credit cards, and even owned 2 homes. Everything was running, as she put it, on automatic pilot.
Sounds like she had it all figured out.
Exactly. But then the unthinkable happened. She got hit by what the author calls a brutal list of financial woes. Her hard-earned 401k and 529 college savings plans, they plummeted by over a third. The value of her rental property dropped below what she owed, and then her tenant lost his job, couldn't pay the rent. And to top it all off, she faced a pay cut herself, forcing her to dip into that carefully built emergency fund. Her question to the author was just heartbreaking. She asked, was I wrong to have saved diligently? Where has it gotten me? Is it even worth it to try and start over? I've lost my motivation and my courage. It's a feeling I think many of us can empathize with after a big financial hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Georgia's a question, it really echoes a profound concern for so many people. Is it truly possible to finish rich anymore after something like that? A devastating setback. The unequivocal answer from our source, and honestly from looking at broader financial history, is a resounding yes. You absolutely can restart your financial journey, or even, begin for the very first time, even when the economy feels overwhelmingly challenging. The fundamental principle, and this is emphasized consistently across different financial philosophies, is the imperative not to give up. You just can't. Recessions, look, they're deeply unsettling, gut-shattering, as the source puts it, but they are inherently temporary. Economies always recover, and perhaps surprisingly, the aftermath of a downturn often presents an ideal environment to lay an incredibly strong financial foundation.
Ideal? How so?
Well, because asset values, think real estate, stocks, other investment, they're often way below the peaks. This period actually unveils genuine bargains, in some cases phenomenal bargains to be had.
Yeah.
It's really a window of opportunity for acquiring assets at reduced prices, which can significantly accelerate wealth accumulation during the subsequent recovery.
That makes sense. And the source also talks about how a recession kind of acts like a societal reset button, right?
Mm-hmm.
It forces us to reevaluate how we live, what truly matters, what we genuinely need versus what we just, want. What our hopes really are. It's a stark recalibration. Our source also critically examines that prior great boom, even calling it an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
This was an era, it says, characterized by this belief that it was okay to spend more than we earned, to just endlessly borrow against home equity for, stuff we didn't need, basically building a financial house on sand. That fantasy inevitably collapsed into a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So the new reality, and this is backed up by timeless financial wisdom, is that boring is good when it comes to money. That means, saving before spending, meticulously building up those emergency accounts, consistently funding retirement, and diligently paying down debt. It might not sound glamorous, maybe not as exciting as speculative investments, but it's described as raw-seek solid, and it consistently works.
You've touched on a really critical point there about mindset. The biggest obstacle many people face isn't just the economy or even their personal finances, but it's that paralyzing grip of fear. A profound fear of the unknown, fear of the future. Just think back to the turmoil of 2008-09. Credit markets freezing up, home values tanking, the stock market in a nosedive, millions losing jobs. It was a period that, for a lot of people, brought up fears of the Great Depression.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
Absolutely. Yet if you look at the broader historical context, economic cycles consistently show us that nothing goes straight up or straight down forever. It just doesn't happen. Every boom eventually leads to a recession, and crucially, every recession is eventually followed by a recovery, often a massive recovery. Consider the 1981-82 recession. That was a significant downturn that lasted 16 months, but it paved the way for the longest and strongest peacetime economic expansion in U.S. history up to that point. Or think about the aftermath of the 1929 crash. The S&P 500 fell a staggering 83%, but then it roared back, soaring an incredible 132% in the 12 months after hitting bottom. This pattern really underscores the human spirit's remarkable ability to bounce back, often stronger and more grounded. It's that old saying, this too shall pass, but it also critically highlights that the speed of your personal rebound really hinges on how effectively you prepare and how decisively you act during these tough times.
And you really do have to act. Because as our sources pointed out, by the summer of 2009, the market was already in an epic rally. The Dow surged 38% in just 5 months. That was the best 6-month rally since 1933. The economy, according to the author's projections back then, was already resetting by 2010. So what does this first foundational step mean for you, the listener, right now? It means the time to start over is now. The core message is clear. It's actionable. Don't stop saving, don't stop investing, and don't give in to fear and despair. The goal here is really to shake off that financial paralysis and commit to the proactive steps we're about to explore throughout this deep dive.
Exactly. And to really solidify this first step, it's vital to recognize that the fundamental rules of building wealth, they're timeless. They don't change just because the market fluctuates. Your unwavering commitment is the bedrock. You have to commit to overcoming that financial fear, commit to disciplined saving and investing, and most importantly, commit to taking action on all 11 steps we're about to lay out. This foundational recommitment is what will allow you to truly believe and ultimately achieve a rich and secure future.
Okay, with that powerful recommitment hopefully locked in, the next logical question is, where do you actually begin the practical work? Restarting your finances. This brings us right to step 2. Find your money. It's a simple truth, but a profound one, and it's underscored by pretty much every financial expert. If you don't have a clear picture of where your money currently is, and maybe even more importantly, where it's going, you simply cannot begin to build a new financial future. When it comes to your finances, truly, ignorance is definitely not bliss. Our sources emphasize 2 fundamental keys here. First, a comprehensive understanding of all your assets and obligations, and second, a precise awareness of your daily spending habits.
Yeah, and what's particularly compelling here is the sheer simplicity, but also the undeniable effectiveness of the start over file folder system proposed in our source. Now, it might sound a bit old school, I grant you, but it's a method developed back in the 90s and it's been updated. The claim is it can be set up in less than an hour. More importantly, it promises to help you avoid potentially hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars a year in those pesky late fees, interest, and penalty charges that often creep up from financial disorganization. This system, it acts as a clear physical manifestation of your entire financial life, which, as behavioral economists often point out, can significantly reduce that cognitive load and, the anxiety around money.
Okay, let's break down this system concretely. You'll need about 15 hanging folders and maybe 50 standard file folders. Each hanging folder gets labeled for a specific category. First up, tax returns. This holds 4 internal files, the last 3 years, plus the current one. Inside go all the relevant documents, W-2s, 1099s, receipts, your filed returns. It's a good reminder here that while most tax records are kept for 3 to 7 years, documents about the cost basis of things like homes, stocks, retirement accounts, those you should keep indefinitely. Next, retirement accounts. A separate file for each IRA, 401k, whatever you have. Keep quarterly statements, the original sign-up package, which, by the way, you should probably review annually. Then Social Security. This is for your most recent benefit statement. You can easily request that online or by phone. Investment accounts covers all your non-retirement brokerage accounts, separate files for mutual funds, stocks, bonds, savings, and checking accounts. This holds your monthly debt statements, usually for a few months up to a year. If you're paperless, make sure to print these or at least save them securely digitally.
Got it. What else?
Okay, then we have household accounts. If you're a homeowner, this includes files like house title reports and insurance, home improvements. Keep those receipts. They're crucial for tax deductions later. And home mortgage, where you should regularly check statements to ensure payments are credited properly. If you're renting, you'd keep your lease, security deposit info, and rent receipts here. Then there's a particularly eye-catching folder. Credit card debt. Notice debt is capitalized. That's intentional, designed to bother you every time you see it, a constant reminder. This holds separate files for each credit account with their monthly statements. Next, the DOLP worksheet. That stands for Dead on Last Payment. It's a system we'll definitely discuss more later. You get the worksheet from the book or the website. You'll also have a folder for credit scores holding your most recent reports. And other liabilities, this covers things like college loans, car loans, personal loans. Each gets its own file with the loan note and payment records.
Okay, seems comprehensive.
Almost there. Insurance gets separate files for health, life, auto, homeowners or renters, disability, long-term care policies, plus payment records. Don't forget any employer-provided info here too. Family will or trust, keep a copy of your most recent will or living trust, and maybe your attorney's business card. Children's accounts is for statements related to college savings or other investments for your kids. And crucially, the Latte Factor worksheet. This one is specifically designed for tracking your spending, which we'll dive into very shortly. The author notes that just setting up this system, just doing this, can make you feel more empowered and more in control. Any empty folders, they aren't just empty space, they're like little homework reminders, prompting you to gather that missing information.
That's a really excellent framework for the physical organization. But, it raises a pertinent question for a savvy listener. Which records should you actually keep, and what can you safely get rid of? It's easy to become a bit of a financial hoarder. Generally, most tax records are only needed for 3 years. There are exceptions, like 6 years for significantly underreported income, or maybe 7 years for worthless securities losses. However, it's absolutely paramount, really critical, to retain cost-basis documentation for homes and investments for as long as you own them. This directly impacts your future capital gains taxes. You can confidently ditch things like outdated warranties for products you don't own anymore, instruction manuals for old gadgets, superseded wills once you have a new one, canceled insurance policies, and most credit card, bank, or brokerage statements for closed tax years, unless, again, they contain that vital cost basis information. Old annual reports, investment newsletters, those can go too. Now, for those who prefer digital solutions, there are excellent online financial management tools available. Platforms like Mint.com, maybe Wesob.com back in the day, they're often free and remarkably powerful. They can automatically download and categorize all your financial transactions, meticulously track your cash flow, and even send valuable email alerts for upcoming late payments or if an account balance dips below a certain level. This digital organization really complements the physical system, saving significant time and helping prevent costly errors.
Okay, so once you know where your money is, the next absolutely crucial step is to pinpoint exactly where it's going. And this leads us right to the heart of the author's strategy, the renowned Latte Factor. He actually posits this as the most important piece of advice in his entire book. His argument is that even if you do nothing else, simply finding your Latte Factor will make you financially stronger. And this concept, it's a powerful metaphor, right, for how those seemingly insignificant small daily expenditures can, over time, literally add up to a fortune. Now, it's not about asceticism or, depriving yourself of life's simple pleasures like your favorite coffee. Not at all. Instead, it's about becoming truly mindful of where your money really goes and asking yourself, is this spending really worth it? He tells this illustrative story of Kim, a young professional who insisted she just couldn't save money. But her daily routine before lunch, it revealed a different story. A $3.50 latte, a $1.50 muffin, a $3.95 smoothie, a $1.50 juice boost, and a $1.75 power bar. That's over $10 spent before midday.
Wow, that adds up fast.
It really does. And the compounding effect is truly eye-opening. Saving just $5 a day, that's $150 a month, almost $2,000 a year. Now, if that's invested at a historical 10% annual return, a rate that was common back in the early 90s, that seemingly small daily saving could compound to nearly $1.2 million by the time she reached age 65. Even using the S&P 500's more recent average, say 8.76% from 1967 to 2009, it still adds up to a hefty 782,647 matches. And when you factor in typical employer 401k matches, that figure could easily push well over $1 million. Just a powerful illustration of compound interest working on seemingly trivial amounts.
And it's so crucial to understand that the Latte Factor goes way beyond just lattes. It really encompasses any small, often unnecessary, daily or recurring expense that just silently drains your financial resources. Our Souls gives a pretty stark, relatable example with cigarettes. An $11 pack in New York City, that translates to $330 a month, over $4,000 a year, and a staggering $40,000 over a decade, money that quite literally goes up in smoke. The core insight here, and this is supported by behavioral finance, is that everyone has a latte factor, some kind of recurring leak in their budget. It could be daily bottled water, maybe frequent dining out, soft drinks, those impulse buys at the checkout, maybe consistent fast food runs. The objective is to conscientiously identify these hidden drains, make a conscious decision to eliminate or reduce them, and then this is key, actively redirect that liberated money towards your financial goals. That really illustrate the power of the latte factor with numbers. Investing just $10 a day, which is $300 a month at a 10% annual return, could yield over $61,000 in just 10 years. And over 40 years, nearly $1.9 million. Astonishing. This just demonstrates that small, consistent actions, when compounded over time, are often far more impactful than maybe sporadic, larger efforts.
Right. Okay. So now, here's a direct call to action for you, the listener. Take the Start Over Latte Factor challenge. Predict. For the next 7 days, meticulously track every single dime you spend. Don't change your behavior yet. The goal is just pure awareness. Be ruthlessly honest with yourself. Maybe get your partner involved, or your kids, even a friend, for added accountability. The author rightly points out that your personal latte factor is constantly changing, so even if you've done this exercise before, doing it again is invaluable. You can go high-tech too. Use the free web-based Latte Factor calculator at thelattefactor.com, or the Facebook page calculator, facebook.com/David Bach, or download the iPhone app if you have one. The author's directive here is pretty unequivocal. Stop reading and do this now. Seriously. Getting a firm handle on your spending habits is truly the indispensable start of starting over.
Okay, so for your immediate actionable takeaways for this critical initial step. First, take the time to organize your financial records. Use that Start Over file folder system. This foundational effort gives you a clear, comprehensive picture of what you have and what you owe, and make sure to securely shred or dispose of any outdated documents. Second, commit to the Latte Factor Challenge. Track your spending for 7 straight days. The goal here is to precisely identify those small, often overlooked daily savings opportunities. And remember, even redirecting just $5 a day can, through the power of compounding, potentially lead to well over $1 million by retirement.
Right. Once you've identified your money and where it's actually going, the next crucial hurdle for millions of Americans is step 3. Deal with your credit card debt. Now, if you're one of the fortunate few who are debt-free, fantastic. Congratulations, you can probably skip ahead a bit. But for the vast majority, credit card debt represents a flashing red alert in their financial lives. The scale is just staggering. American consumers collectively owe nearly $1 trillion in credit card debt. That's trillion with a T. The good news, though, as our sources emphasize, is that you are not alone and you truly can fix this problem. We'll explore the author's innovative DOLP system and also touch upon the significant protections that came about with the Credit Card Act of 2009.
Yeah, it's quite striking how easily people can accumulate such substantial credit card debt. Federal Reserve estimates back then showed the average family with a balance carried nearly $17,000. But our author encountered people settled with $25,000, $50,000, even over $100,000 plus. He offers a crucial perspective, though. Credit cards, fundamentally, don't have arms or legs. Debt isn't something that just happens to you. It's accumulated either through a series of choices or sometimes in response to unforeseen crises. He echoes the timeless wisdom of his own grandmother. If you can't pay cash, you can't afford to buy it. Simple, but powerful. And for anyone currently grappling with debt, the absolute #1 rule, totally non-negotiable for success, is this. Stop using your credit cards. Once you are in a hole, you must stop digging. This immediate stop to adding new debt is the absolute foundation for any successful repayment strategy.
Okay, so for those who are currently able to make their minimum payments, the author offers a surprisingly straightforward and effective strategy. It's called the DOP system. That's DOLE. Stands for Debt on Last Payment. It's designed to give you a coherent plan of attack in just minutes. Here's how it works. First, organize statements. Gather all your credit card statements, put them in those distinct red folders from step 2, and clearly note the total amount owed on each one. Second, fill out the DOLP worksheet. You can get a blank one from the book or finishrish.com/ANDOLP. On it, list each account's name, its outstanding balance, the minimum monthly payment, and the due date. Third, calculate the DOLP number. This is your key priority metric. You divide the outstanding balance by the minimum monthly payment. So, for example, a $1,000 Visa debt with a $50 minimum payment gives you a DLP of 20. Do this for all your accounts. Fourth, assign DLP ranking. The account with the lowest DOLP number gets the #1 rank. This means it's your highest priority for aggressive repayment. The others follow in ascending order. Fifth, calendar due dates. Put all those payment due dates into your personal calendar. Maybe set a reminder 5 days in advance. And crucially, sign up for email alerts from your card issuers. Finally, pay down debt the DOLP way. Each month, make the minimum payment on every single account except your #1 ranked card. For that top priority card, commit to paying as much as you possibly can ideally, at least double the minimum. Use those Latte Factor savings you identified earlier. Once that #1 card is fully paid off, retire it. Maybe cut it up, but keep the account open if you can for credit history, and then pivot your aggressive payments to the card that's now ranked #2. This system works because it rapidly reduces the number of cards you owe money on, which is incredibly empowering psychologically. Plus, even a small balance can trigger costly late fees or overlimit charges.
That's a really powerful method for disciplinary payment. But for many, a key question comes up. How can you make the DOLP plan work even faster? The answer really lies in actively working to lower your interest rates. So many individuals are unknowingly paying these exorbitant annual percentage rates, sometimes near 30%, when the average fixed rate back in 2009 was significantly lower, around 13.46%. First step is just to find your APR on your statement. Then compare it to national averages using reputable sites like bankrate.com or maybe lowcards.com. Understand where your rate falls on the spectrum. Are you super prime or down in the punitive range? The crucial action here is to call your credit card company directly. Arm yourself with this knowledge and use your knowledge as leverage. Always ask to speak to a supervisor. Our source notes that, in his experience, there's always something they can do. He's actually witnessed individuals successfully negotiate rates down from 29% all the way down to 0 for a period. It's possible. It's also worth noting that major credit card companies often have dedicated helplines just for debt problems, and resources like helpwithmycredit.org exist too.
Yeah, but it's a sobering truth, isn't it, that ignoring credit card debt, especially if you find yourself unable to make even the minimum payments, will only make the problem worse, much worse. The author's advice is absolutely unequivocal. Reach out to your credit card companies. Don't hide. A valuable resource, often overlooked, is Help with My Credit. This was an initiative created by the major card issuers themselves: Bank of America, Capital One, Citi, Discover, MasterCard, Visa. This program offers practical tips and can connect you with accredited credit counselors. They have a hotline, 866-941-1030, and a website. Another option to explore are debt management plans, DMPs. These are offered by credit counseling companies designed to help prevent defaults. They can significantly cut your interest rate, sometimes even down to 0, in exchange for a structured, guaranteed repayment program. The main caveat, though, is that your account is usually closed or frozen. And while participating can sometimes negatively impact your credit score, it's generally a far better outcome than having your debt charged off. Critically, though, always read the contract thoroughly before you commit so you understand the exact impact on your credit.
Right. And credit counseling itself is strongly endorsed as a vital tool. Reputable nonprofit agencies can provide invaluable help with budgeting, creating tailored payment plans, and even negotiating DMPs on your behalf. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling, NFCC, 800-388-2227, or debtadvice.org is an excellent starting point. There are others like AICCCA too. However, a significant warning is issued. Exercise extreme caution with any nonprofit counseling agency that charges high upfront or monthly fees, pressures you for extra donations, doesn't really review your financial situation thoroughly, demands payment before accepting you, or won't provide written promises or references. Those are red flags. And a final, really emphatic warning is reserved for those debt settlement companies. These outfits are described as leery. They often make these grand promises like they'll wipe out your debt or cut it in half if you stop paying your creditors and pay them instead. The author states flatly there's no way to guarantee they'll succeed, and tragically, many people end up getting ripped off and pushed even closer to bankruptcy by these schemes.
It's helpful to understand the bigger picture, too. The Credit Card Act of 2009, which took effect in February 2010, was a landmark piece of legislation. It brought about a major shift in consumer protection. It specifically prohibited many of the deliberately confusing and, frankly, predatory practices previously used by credit card companies. So this act bans things like arbitrary rate increases on your existing balances, that really problematic double cycle billing, the controversial universal default, remember that, where a late payment on any bill, even a utility bill, could trigger a rate hike on all your credit cards.
Terrible practice.
Awful. It also banned notorious late fee traps like weekend deadlines, sudden changes to due dates, or midday payment deadlines. The act also requires companies to apply any partial payments you make to the highest interest balance first. It requires them to get your explicit permission for overlimit transactions, provide a 45-day notice for any rate increases, ensure a minimum 21-day payment window, and present clear, understandable contracts. Contracts that explicitly detail how long it will take to pay off a balance if you only make minimum payments. Now, these new rules are undeniably great, really beneficial, but they aren't self-enforcing. It means you, the consumer, need to get in the driver's seat, be aware of your rights, and be prepared to assert them, even threaten to report violations if necessary. This really empowers you with greater negotiation leverage.
Okay, so what happens if your credit card debt has unfortunately already been charged off, meaning the original creditor wrote it off as a loss and sold it to a collection agency? The author explains that if it shows up as charged off on your credit report, the main damage to your credit score has pretty much already happened. That negative mark can stay there for up to 10 years. This situation means the company now hounding you for payment is a collection agency. They bought your debt for pennies on the dollar and are simply trying to make a profit. It's vital here to understand the concept of time-barred debts. Depending on your state's laws, there's a statute of limitations usually somewhere between 3 to 10 years after which you cannot be legally sued for that debt. You can check ftc.gov, look for time-barred debts to figure out your rights in your state. Because attempting to settle such a debt might inadvertently restart the clock on that negative mark on your credit record, so be careful. Furthermore, familiarize yourself with your rights under the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act, FDCPA. And don't hesitate to call the FTC hotline, 1-877-FTC-HELP, if you feel you're being unfairly harassed. The critical advice here, do not settle anything until you know your rights.
Right. Okay, so to summarize the actionable takeaways for really dealing effectively with credit card debt. Firstly, if you find yourself overwhelmed, the immediate most crucial step is to stop using your credit cards. Period. Secondly, implement that DOLP system. Focus all your extra payments on one prioritized card, making only minimum payments on the others. Relentlessly tackle that first card until it's paid off, then move to the next. Thirdly, use your knowledge of current interest rates. Contact your credit card companies and proactively negotiate for lower APRs. Fourth, if you truly cannot meet even your minimum payments, explore debt management plans or seek guidance from a reputable nonprofit credit counseling agency like the NFCC. And finally, if your debt has unfortunately been charged off and sold to collections, prioritize addressing it last. When you are financially ready, negotiate to pay only a fraction of the original debt, but only after fully understanding all your legal rights.
Makes sense. With those debt strategies hopefully clearer, let's turn our focus now to step 4. Fix and protect your credit score. As our source really eloquently puts it, your credit score is your financial GPA. In stable economic times, okay, it dictates the interest rates you qualify for in loans. But today, the author argues, having a high score is more crucial than it has ever been. Unquote, why the increased importance. Because a low score doesn't just mean higher borrowing costs anymore. It can actually prevent you from getting a loan at all. It can significantly impact your job prospects. Many employers now check credit histories. It can even influence military promotions where, believe it or not, it might be seen as a security risk. The good news, though, as the author asserts, is that it's a completely realistic goal to boost your FICO score by 50 to 100 points in less than a year. It's achievable.
That's encouraging. And it's useful to understand that your credit score isn't just one single number, right? It's more dynamic than that. While there are 3 major bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and they each generate their own reports using slightly different methods, FICO remains the industry standard. Over 80% of lenders use it. So your FICO score, which typically ranges from 300 to 850, gives a pretty comprehensive indicator of your credit worthiness. Scores above 700 are generally considered good. Getting up to 750 or higher usually unlocks access to the very best loan terms. On the flip side, scores below 620 usually mean significantly higher borrowing costs, and anything below 500 makes it really unlikely you'll get approved for a loan at all. And to put this in perspective, a mere difference of 50 to 100 points on your FICO score can change everything when it comes to mortgage rates or other loans. It could potentially save you thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars over the lifetime of that debt. It really underscores the tangible financial impact of that seemingly small number.
Absolutely. And FICO calculates this score using 5 key factors, each weighted differently based on its importance. Payment history is the biggest one. It accounts for a substantial 35% of your score. This looks at whether you consistently pay your bills on time and flags any major negative marks like bankruptcies or liens. The author powerfully states, simply paying your bills on time impacts more than 1/3 of your score. And the good news is, consistent on-time payments, even after maybe a stumble, can start to improve your score in as little as 6 months. Next up is amounts owed. This makes up 30% of your score. It considers your total outstanding debt, the types of debt you carry, and crucially, your credit utilization. That's the proportion of your total available credit limit that you're currently using. Financial experts widely agree that using over 50% of your available credit, say, charging more than $2,500 on a $5,000 Visa limit actively hurts your score. And a critical point here. During volatile times, credit card companies sometimes cut limits without warning. This can instantly max you out on a card and cost you up to 100 points on your score. It really highlights why that DOLP plan from Step 3 is so vital for proactively managing this.
Okay, 35% for payment history, 30% for amounts owed. What makes up the rest?
Right. So length of credit history contributes 15% to your score. This looks at how long your credit accounts have been open. A longer average history, typically around 14 years or more, is generally viewed more favorably. This is precisely why it's often advisable not to close old, unused accounts, even if you don't use them anymore. Closing them shortens your history. Then, new credit accounts for 10% of your score. This includes how many new accounts you've recently opened and the number of inquiries potential lenders make when you apply for credit. Too much new activity in a short period can be seen as a sign of risk. Finally, types of credit used makes up the remaining 10%, showing that you can manage a healthy mix of different credit types like credit cards, installment loans, car or student loans, and mortgages can be a positive indicator of your overall financial responsibility.
Okay, knowing those factors is helpful. So the next logical question is, how do you actually go about addressing the weak spots? How do you actively improve your score?
Exactly. While it definitely requires consistent effort over time, it's absolutely an achievable goal. Our source provides a really practical 10-step action plan. First, get your credit report and check for errors. You can get a truly free copy from annualcreditreport.com. A 2004 survey, which is striking, found that 79% of reports contained errors, so you absolutely must review yours with a fine-tooth comb. Dispute any inaccuracies you find using certified letters, maybe with supporting documents. You can find sample letters online, like at finishrich.com/credit letters. Second, automate your bill paying. This is a critical reinforcement of Step 3. Even being a few days late can seriously damage your score, whereas consistent on-time payments provide a steady boost. Automation protects you here. Third, don't despair if you have missed payments. Seriously, it's genuinely never too late to start repairing your credit. The key is to get current as quickly as possible and stay current. Your score will begin to improve within 6 months, and those negative marks lessen in impact over time. Fourth, keep your balance well below your credit limit. This is identified as perhaps the most powerful factor for achieving quick score improvement. Given that credit card companies can cut limits without warning, which can spike your utilization and cost you maybe 100 points, actively maintaining low balances, as guided by the DOLP plan, is absolutely paramount. Fifth, spread your balances around. This might seem counterintuitive, but having small balances distributed across multiple cards is often actually preferable to carrying one large balance on a single card, as it can positively impact your overall utilization ratios.
Okay, that's 5 steps. What are the next 5?
Right. 6, pay your credit card bill early, especially if you frequently carry high balances month to month. FICO generally uses the balance reported on your statement by the card issuer. So, by paying down your bill before the statement period actually ends, you can significantly reduce the reported balance, which positively impacts your utilization calculation. 7th, hang on to your old accounts. Closing accounts actually shortens your overall credit history and reduces your total available credit, both of which are generally bad for your FICO score. It's often better to keep older accounts open, even if you don't use them much. Closing them doesn't remove past bad payment records anyway. 8th, use your old cards occasionally. A tricky point now is that many inactive accounts are being closed by the issuers themselves, which can hurt your average credit age. To prevent this, try to make at least one small charge on each old card, maybe once a month or every few months, just to keep them active in their system. 9th, demonstrate responsibility. Look, the most effective long-term strategy for raising your credit score is simply to consistently handle credit responsibly. Don't borrow more than you need, and always pay on time. Avoid opening new accounts just to increase your credit limit or diversify your credit mix, particularly if you're just starting out on your credit journey or rebuilding. And finally, number 10, when shopping for a loan, do it quickly. Multiple inquiries from lenders in a short period can negatively impact your score. To mitigate this, try to conduct all your loan comparison shopping within a concentrated 30-day window. FICO algorithms are designed to batch these inquiries together, understanding that you're likely comparison shopping for a single loan, like a mortgage or car loan, rather than trying to open multiple new lines of credit simultaneously.
That's really practical advice. And for those looking to be even more proactive in managing their credit, There's a bonus tip. Consider signing up for a credit score monitoring program. These are offered by the big three bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Many offer free 30-day trials. Such services can be, as the author says, invaluable for quickly catching any mistakes on your report or, even more critically, detecting potential identity theft early on. Just be absolutely sure to read the fine print carefully regarding any fees that might kick in after that trial period ends.
Definitely good advice. So, for your actionable takeaways to effectively fix and protect your credit score, your very first step should be to go to annualcreditreport.com and get your genuinely free credit report from each bureau. Next, seriously consider investing in an annual credit monitoring service to keep a close, continuous eye on your financial standing and protect against identity theft. Then, armed with your report, specifically identify the factors that are currently holding your score down and commit to taking targeted, consistent action on each one. Finally, make it a point to recheck your credit score in about 6 months and then again at year-end with the strategic goal of achieving a FICO score of 720 or higher. That's generally considered a very solid score.
Okay, moving forward, we arrive at a really fundamental step. Step 5, rebuild your emergency savings. As my grandma Rose Bach wisely used to tell me, David, when the going gets tough, the tough have cash. This timeless wisdom is just profoundly true. Cash isn't just, currency. It represents king, security, protection. The recent economic downturn really drove this lesson home with brutal clarity for many. Without a sufficient cash cushion, you're potentially only one job loss or one emergency medical expense away from disaster. End quote. This fundamental truth underscores precisely why we all need a rainy day fund, period. And here's an interesting shift that happened. Americans had historically been pretty terrible savers, but the national savings rate actually climbed past 5% back in 2009. People had, as the author puts it, gotten religion about saving money. Now it's your turn to embrace that crucial habit.
Yeah, but the big question for many is, where do I find the money to build an emergency fund, especially when feeling financially stretched thin already? It's a common hurdle, but look, it's not as impossible as it might seem. Let's just recall the Latte Factor from step 2. You could easily be unknowingly wasting $5, $10, or even more every single day on unnecessary recurring expenditures. Your absolute first priority for these newly found savings should be to channel them directly towards building your emergency account. You might also need to, dig a bit deeper temporarily. Make conscious decisions to cut back on non-essentials, like maybe premium cable packages or frequent dining out. This isn't about permanent deprivation, it's about prioritizing. And remember, the sacrifice won't go on forever. The overarching key, as we've consistently emphasized, is to make this process automatic. This eliminates the need for constant willpower or discipline, which often fails. By setting up automatic deductions from your paycheck directly into a separate savings account, the logic is, if you don't have to think about it, there's no chance you'll forget to do it, or, worse, change your mind.
Right. Automation is key. And our sources lay out 4 fundamental rules for handling your emergency money. First, set a goal. Aim for a minimum of 3 months' worth of essential living expenses. This includes the absolute necessities, mortgage or rent, utilities, food, health insurance premiums. So if your essential monthly spending is, say, $3,000, your initial target should be at least $9,000. Of course, more is always better. Some financial planners even recommend aiming for 6 months or even up to 2 years' worth, depending on your situation and comfort level. Second, make it automatic. Ensure that at least 5% of each paycheck is automatically deposited into a separate savings account, specifically designated just for emergencies. If your employer doesn't offer direct payroll deduction for multiple accounts, then set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to this separate savings account the day after your paycheck clears. Keeping these funds physically separate from your everyday checking is crucial to prevent accidental dipping in.
Okay, goal set, automation on. What's next?
Third, put it in the right place. The primary focus for your emergency fund needs to be on security and accessibility, not chasing high returns, especially when interest rates are low or there's financial instability around. Always look for that FDIC seal of approval on bank accounts. This insurance, which was temporarily extended to cover up to $250,000 per individual per bank through the end of 2013, provides crucial peace of mind. It's important to remember, though, FDIC insurance does not cover investments like stocks or mutual funds. Those carry market risk. Fourth, and arguably the most critical rule, leave it alone. A true emergency is defined as something that threatens your survival. It's not an impulse purchase like a new dress or replacing a dishwasher that's just making a bit of noise. The author is very clear on this. Do not dip into this fund unless your family is genuinely about to go hungry or be thrown out into the street. This fund is your ultimate financial firewall. You have to protect it.
Absolutely. And looking at the broader financial landscape, it's a stark reality that most people do live paycheck to paycheck, often relying on just 2 paychecks to cover all their monthly expenses. If even one of those paychecks suddenly disappears, a family can find themselves upside down financially in a matter of weeks. It can happen that fast. To help people assess their preparedness, our source recommends a practical sleep well at night test. This just involves calculating your total monthly essential expenses, looking at your current savings, and then determining precisely how many months those savings would cover if your income stopped. Now, when considering where to keep these crucial funds, that FDIC seal of approval is your beacon of safety. This insurance originated back in the Great Depression to restore public confidence in banks. It covers deposit accounts, checking, savings, money market, CDs, up to that $250,000 limit per individual per bank. You can easily verify coverage for your specific accounts using the ED the Estimator tool at fdic.gov or by calling their hotline. It's a crucial distinction, again, that FDIC insurance does not extend to investments like stocks or mutual funds. When picking a bank for your emergency fund, beyond the typically low interest rates, which were under 2% back in 2009, you should consider factors like minimum opening deposit requirements, the ease of setting up automatic transfers, convenient check writing or ATM access for genuine emergencies, and any potential low balance fees. For a government-backed, supremely safe option, U.S. savings bonds are highlighted as really safe and simple, guaranteed directly by the U.S. government. And TreasuryDirect.gov even makes it easy to set up automatic payroll deductions for them.
So what does all this really mean for your financial peace of mind? Well, once your rainy day plan is established and set to automatic, you'll find that the funds will just quietly add up without you having to constantly think about them or exert willpower. This newfound security allows you to relax, breathe a little easier, and forget about it for a while. The true power here is the peace of mind that comes from knowing you have that financial cushion, that buffer against life's unexpected turns. Just remember, maybe periodically, keep an eye out for rising interest rates in the future using resources like Bankrate.com, just to ensure your emergency fund continues to work as efficiently as possible for you while remaining safe and accessible.
Okay, let's recap the actionable takeaways for effectively rebuilding your emergency savings. Firstly, establish a precise goal for your emergency fund. Aim for that minimum of 3 months' worth of basic expenses to ensure you achieve that crucial sleep well at night factor. Secondly, make a temporary sacrifice. Cut back on a non-essential pleasure or convenience to actively and rapidly fund this account. Prioritize it. Thirdly, and critically, automate the funding. Use payroll deduction or an automatic transfer to a separate, dedicated account. Make it effortless. And finally, once it's established, keep your emergency funds in an FDIC-insured, easily accessible account. And then, paramount to its purpose, leave it alone unless a true survival-threatening emergency arises. Protect that fund fiercely.
All right, now let's turn our attention to step 6. Re-energize your retirement plan. For many people, the Wall Street meltdown was arguably one of the most painful impacts of the recession. It hit close to home. Most people's 401ks and IRAs experienced significant losses, often losing close to a third of its value between late 2007 and early 2009. It was brutal to watch. This profound shock led a considerable number of people to just throw in the towel. A 2009 AARP survey really highlighted this trend. It revealed that nearly 4 out of 10 individuals cut back on their retirement contributions, and a worrying 1 in 5 workers over 45 stopped contributing entirely. However, our source issues a really stern warning here. Giving up like this is one of the worst things anyone hoping to finish rich could do. It's precisely the wrong time to quit. Why? Because the economic surge that usually follows a deep recession makes now or periods like it the optimal time to recommit and potentially capitalize on undervalued assets for the long term.
Exactly. The real insight here lies in understanding market cycles. Economic ups and downs are just a normal, inherent part of the financial landscape. They happen. Crucially, though, down markets present a huge opportunity for astute long-term investors to acquire stocks and other investments at bargain prices, that is, on sale. The fundamental principle is pretty simple. When the market inevitably recovers, and history shows it always does eventually, your investments will potentially be worth much more than you paid for them. The author observed that by the summer of 2009, the market had already staged a significant recovery, with the Dow jumping 38% in just 5 months from its March lows. This really underscores a powerful truth. You can't get rich watching and wondering. You have to take action. Inertia, just sitting on the sidelines, is often the costliest investment decision you can make, especially in retirement planning.
Yeah, and the danger of falling into that do-nothing mode after a big market shock is a real concern. Many people became extremely nervous, understandably, after watching their accounts seemingly evaporate. The author shares this cautionary tale of Chris, who was so traumatized by the losses that he moved all his retirement savings into a money market account, earning less than 1% interest. He was convinced the market was somehow rigged against him. So what's the takeaway here? Being too conservative can actually be just as detrimental as being overly aggressive, particularly for long-term goals like retirement. At a mere 1% annual return, it could genuinely take the rest of your lifetime just to recover to your pre-meltdown balance. That kind of perceived safety comes at an incredibly high opportunity cost over decades.
Right. And it's important for people to understand that you can actually make up your losses much, much faster than you might think. It's not necessarily a decades-long process if you stay the course. Our source highlights that for those who showed courage and consistently kept contributing to their 401ks throughout the downturn, their balances actually fell less than 9% overall. Dollar-cost averaging really helped them. To illustrate the power of continued contribution, imagine your 401k initially dropped 20%, say from $100,000 down to $80,000. If you maintain contributions of $500 a month, and let's say your employer provided a typical 50% match, adding another $250 a month, even with a modest 4% annual return assumption going forward, you could be back to your original balance in less than 2 years, specifically about 18 months, according to the calculation. This is what the author terms your start over deal. It's a powerful incentive to recommit to that long-term vision of finishing rich, understanding that consistent investment, especially during downturns when prices are lower, significantly accelerates recovery.
Okay, but before making any adjustments to your retirement plan, a really crucial, non-negotiable first step is to fully understand what you currently own. Do you genuinely know what you are invested in right now? The author laments how many people just say their accounts stink or blame the market, yet they have no clue what specific funds they actually hold. He underscores that ignorance will kill you in the investment world. It's harsh, but probably true. His direct challenge to you, the listener, is clear. Pull out your statement today, right now, and find out what your retirement savings are invested in. It's your money, and you need to know this. No excuses. This foundational knowledge is what empowers you to make informed decisions.
Exactly, and that leads directly to a critical set of questions. How did your investments really perform compared to their benchmarks? And maybe more importantly, how much risk is actually appropriate for your individual situation and timeline? You should actively compare your fund's performance against its specific class or category, for example, large cap stocks versus other large cap stock funds using independent analytical sites like Morningstar.com. Or simply ask your 401k provider for a comparison report. They usually have them. This helps you figure out if your fund genuinely underperformed its peers or if it simply reflected broader market trends during that period. Once you understand the performance, you need to assess your risk tolerance and your asset allocation. The general principle, widely adopted in financial planning, is that younger investors with a longer time horizon until retirement can generally afford to be more aggressive seeking growth. As you get closer to retirement, the strategy typically shifts towards capital preservation, favoring less volatile investments like bonds and cash equivalents. The classic old rule of thumb often suggests that the percentage of your portfolio allocated to fixed income investments, like bonds or bond funds, should roughly equal your age. So a 40-year-old might have 40% in bonds. However, it's worth noting that some modern financial philosophies might advocate for a slightly higher equity allocation even later in life, depending on individual circumstances, overall wealth, and comfort levels with risk.
That makes sense. But annually rebalancing your portfolio to match that glide path can feel like a chore for a lot of people. Our sources highlight target date funds as potentially an excellent simplified solution for managing asset allocation over time. These funds are meticulously designed for retirement savings. They're clearly labeled with a specific target retirement year, like Target 2040 or Target 2050. Their key advantage is that they automatically adjust their mix of stocks, bonds, and cash, becoming progressively more conservative as that target year approaches. You set it and theoretically forget it. They become incredibly popular, now offered in over 80% of 401k plans. But here's a crucial nuance the author points out. While they're undeniably convenient, target date funds can vary significantly in their specific stock-to-bond allocation strategies, especially as they get close to their target date. Some stay more aggressive than others. So the author's recommendation, if you prefer a more cautious approach, is to err on the side of safety. Consider selecting a fund with a target date earlier than your actual intended retirement year. For example, if you plan to retire in, say, 2040, choosing a 2035 target date fund would ensure more conservative asset allocation in those critical years leading up to your retirement.
That's a good practical tip. And look, if navigating these investment decisions feels daunting or overwhelming, seeking professional financial guidance is always a prudent step. Don't feel you have to do it all alone. Many employers now integrate professional advisory firms right into their 401k plans. Firms like Financial Engines, co-founded by Nobel Prize winner William Sharpe, offer services often with remarkably low annual fees, maybe in the 0.15% to 0.35% range. Major fund companies like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and Vanguard also provide robust online tools and services for asset allocation guidance and specific fund recommendations. For those managing IRAs outside of employer-sponsored plans, discount brokers offer accessible solutions too. E-Trade had an online advisor service, maybe with a $10K minimum, with fees between 0.5% to 0.75%. TD Ameritrade had portfolio guidance, maybe $25K minimum, around 0.75% fees. These services often favor low-cost ETFs, which our author generally prefers, over higher-fee, actively managed mutual funds for long-term investing. Other reputable firms include Fidelity's Portfolio Advisory Service, Schwab's Managed Portfolios, and Vanguard, which also offers their well-known Star Fund, VGSTX. That's a low-cost, balanced asset allocation fund with a modest $1,000 minimum for IRAs, making it very accessible. A newer type of service mentioned was Market Writers, marketwriters.com, offering do-it-yourself investing tools for a low monthly fee, like $9.95 a month, helping design ETF portfolios and providing rebalancing alerts for those who prefer a bit more hands-on control but still want guidance.
Okay, so now that you're hopefully feeling more confident about understanding your investment options and your risk tolerance, here is the single most impactful action you can take for a truly richer retirement. Max out your plan. The statistics are just stark, really sobering. Most Americans simply haven't saved nearly enough for retirement. Back in 2008, the typical worker had only about $56,000 total in their retirement accounts, and a concerning 40% had less than $10,000 saved. For many, this isn't even enough to cover one single year of retirement expenses. The message is crystal clear. You need to find ways to put away more, significantly more.
Yeah, and to really deepen our understanding of this, let's explore why you likely can afford to put away more than you might currently believe is possible. The key lies in the magic of pre-tax investing, often referred to as paying yourself first. It's a powerful concept. Every single dollar you contribute to a traditional 401k or a traditional IRA actually costs you less than 70 cents out of your take-home pay because it comes out before taxes are calculated. For example, if you decide to save an extra $50 per paycheck, your net take-home pay might only decrease by $35. The remaining $15, which would have otherwise gone straight to Uncle Sam in taxes, is instead redirected to work for your future self. Now, when you factor in an employer match, a common benefit where employers match a percentage of your contributions, say 50% on that your total $75 investment, $50 from you, $25 match, only effectively costs you $35 out of your own pocket. As our source rightly challenges, how can you refuse a bargain like this? It's essentially free money. The author is pretty blunt and direct on this point. You must prioritize paying yourself first. To him, not doing so is simply not an option if you genuinely aspire to financial security and a comfortable retirement.
All right. So here's an urgent and final call to action for this crucial step. If you're not currently participating in your employer's retirement plan, assuming they offer one, get in the game immediately. Enroll today. If your employer doesn't offer a plan, or if you're self-employed, proactively set up your own IRA. You can find comprehensive details and resources on how to do this at finishrich.com/retirement report. The author emphatically states, and it's worth repeating, no one is going to take care of you or me the way we would like to live when it comes time to retire. The responsibility ultimately falls squarely on you. You need to depend on your younger self now to make those consistent contributions because your older self will undoubtedly thank you later, profoundly.
Okay, let's quickly summarize the actionable takeaways for truly re-energizing your retirement plan. First, if you've paused or stopped your contributions, restart them immediately. Don't wait. Second, if your employer offers a 401k, make sure you sign up and contribute, at least enough to get the full match. If not, proactively establish your own IRA. Third, gain absolute clarity on your investments. Pull out your statement, know exactly where your money is allocated, and then compare its performance using tools like Morningstar.com. Fourth, frankly assess your personal risk level and ensure your investments accurately reflect it, adjusting as needed, especially as you get older. Fifth, consider simplifying your asset allocation with those convenient target date mutual funds if managing it yourself feels overwhelming. Sixth, If you feel uncertain or overwhelmed by any of these decisions, please don't hesitate to seek guidance from a qualified, trustworthy financial professional. And finally, and arguably most impactful for the long run, increase your retirement contributions today. Make it a concrete goal to eventually reach the maximum allowed contribution limit each year.
Okay, fantastic. Now let's move to perhaps the single most important action you can take to ensure all these previous efforts, all this hard work, truly sticks and becomes sustainable. Step 7, make it automatic. If there's one thing, one absolutely critical element you must implement in your start-over plan for it to actually succeed long-term, it is this. You must make your plan automatic. While all the preceding steps provide robust, tried-and-true strategies, the author's most profound lesson, and this is echoed by countless financial success stories, is simply that the only plans that work are the ones that are automatic. Why such an emphatic declaration? Why is automation so critical? Because, as he contends, relying on discipline simply doesn't work consistently over the long haul. Working harder to save money simply doesn't work either. Relying on sheer willpower is just unsustainable for most people. It takes too much time, too much mental energy, and it will almost certainly fall by the wayside when the going gets tough, when life inevitably throws curveballs.
Yeah. The psychology behind automation is really quite fascinating, and governments actually leverage this principle very effectively already. As our source points out, governments worldwide understand this concept perfectly. That's precisely why they created income tax withholding to essentially guarantee that you will pay your tax bill by automatically deducting money from your paycheck before you ever see it or have the chance to spend it elsewhere. It removes the choice, the friction. Extending this principle to your personal finances, you need to effectively imitate this powerful strategy for yourself. The goal is to establish a system that guarantees you won't have spent all your money on other things before it gets allocated to your future financial goals, your savings, your investments, your debt repayment. The aim is to set it up so that you only have to take action once and you guarantee your success. It leverages inertia in your favor. This isn't just some optional extra or nice to have. It's so foundational, it gets its own distinct step in this plan. If you are genuinely serious about your financial recovery and building long-term wealth, it's simply not enough to say you're going to do it. You've also got to make the process automatic. Automation turns good intentions into effortless, consistent financial habits.
Right. And the author describes this as the foolproof, no-brainer, set-it-and-forget-it financial plan, meticulously updated for the modern era. And the best part, he claims it can be fully set up in less than an hour. Okay, let's walk through the components. First, pay yourself first, automatically. We've covered this in step 6, but it bears repeating. Commit to having at least 5% of your income, ideally aiming for 12.5%, which represents roughly 1 hour's work each day, automatically deducted from your paycheck and deposited directly into your 401k or IRA. This consistent automatic action ensured those who maintained contributions were perfectly set up to benefit from the stock market crash of 2008 because they were systematically buying when stocks were at their lowest prices, dollar cost averaging in action. If direct payroll deduction isn't an option for retirement savings, set up a systematic investment plan through your bank or brokerage firm. Second, deposit your paycheck automatically. Utilize direct deposit whenever possible. It gets your pay into your account without delay, saves you time, and removes any temptation to cash the check and spend it impulsively.
Simple but effective. What's next?
Third, fund your emergency account automatically. As we outlined back in step 5, arrange for at least 5% of your paycheck, or whatever percentage gets you to your goal, to be directly deposited into that separate FDIC-insured emergency account. Keep this going until your fund is fully stocked to your target amount. Fourth, fund your dream account automatically. This is where your major life goals come into play. Maybe it's down payment for a home, saving for a new car, a wedding, that dream vacation. Most significant dreams require cash. Use payroll deduction or set up an automatic bank transfer to yet another separate FDIC-insured account specifically earmarked for this purpose. Give it a name related to your dream. If your dream is 3 or more years away, once you accumulate a decent amount, say around $10,000, you might consider investing that money a bit more aggressively. As the author notes, this is where the excitement of life really is, watching your specific aspirations grow financially. Fifth, pay your credit card bills automatically. This is huge for protecting your credit score. Contact all your credit card companies and try to synchronize their due dates to the same day of the month, ideally about 10 days after your paycheck is typically deposited. Then, use your bank's online bill-paying service to automatically make at least the minimum payment 5 days before the actual due date. If you want to pay more, following your DOLP plan from step 3, you can always send an additional check or make an extra manual online payment. This simple system guarantees you never miss a payment deadline and helps you avoid those costly late fees and potential penalty interest rates.
That takes care of emergencies, dreams, and credit cards. What else?
Sixth, pay all your other monthly bills automatically. For bills with fixed amounts, like your mortgage, rent, or car payments, set up automatic debits directly from your checking account. It's usually straightforward. For variable bills like your phone, cable, or internet, you can arrange to have them charged automatically to one of your credit cards. Just make sure you have sufficient credit available and, crucially, that you're paying that credit card bill off automatically each month to avoid interest. This comprehensive automation protects you from ever accidentally missing a payment, freeing up significant mental energy and reducing stress. The author himself states his entire financial life is managed this way, allowing him to boast he never incurs late fees. And seventh, give to charity automatically. This connects directly to our upcoming bonus step 11. Commit to arranging a consistent percentage, whatever feels right for you, perhaps 1% to 10% of each paycheck, to be automatically contributed to your chosen charity via credit card or bank debit. This consistent automatic giving makes generosity effortless, deeply rewarding, and ensures it actually happens. So, with these 7 components in place, you've now effectively made your entire financial life automatic. Congratulations. As the author rightly notes, even if you do nothing else from this point forward, you have set yourself up for success for the long term by building these positive financial habits into your routine.
Absolutely. So just to reiterate the core actionable takeaways for this absolutely pivotal step. The overarching principle is to fully automate your entire financial plan. This really encompasses meticulously setting up those automatic contributions to your retirement accounts, systematically funding both your emergency savings and your specific dream savings accounts, and critically automating all your bill payments, including credit cards and any other recurring monthly expenses. Finally, extend this powerful principle of automation to your charitable giving as well. The underlying philosophy here is truly to set it and forget it, to remove the constant reliance on daily willpower and discipline, and instead ensure consistent, effortless progress towards all your financial objectives. It's about making success the default path.
Okay, moving forward, we arrive at a step that might seem a bit controversial, especially given recent history. Step 8, rebuild with real estate. You might be a little shocked to hear that title, right? Especially with fresh memories of the mortgage meltdown and the housing price collapse that affected so many. However, our source insists quite firmly that the power of real estate hasn't changed.
Okay.
So let's dig into this a bit more. The fundamental truth asserted here is that to truly finish rich over the long term, you will eventually need to own some property. And perhaps counterintuitively, the author believed back then, and the principle may still hold, that the aftermath of a downturn could actually be the optimal time to strategically implement or reevaluate your real estate plan.
Yeah, it's particularly compelling to hear the author's strong conviction back in 2009 that that period presented an unprecedented opportunity for buyers. In the summer of 2009, the market was literally flooded with a record number of homes for sale, and prices were often slashed by 25% to 50% from their peaks just a couple of years earlier. He described it vividly as the most amazing buyer's market we've seen in decades, rendering homeownership more affordable than it has been in years. The Homeowner Affordability Index actually reached an astonishing 179 in April 2009, which indicated just how favorable conditions were for buyers relative to incomes and interest rates. He underscores that these kinds of opportunities emerge maybe once every 20 years. The enduring message is that the fundamentals of real estate have not changed. While many unfortunately experienced significant losses during the crisis, others were already capitalizing on the situation, refinancing at historically low rates, maybe moving into larger homes for less, or entering the market for the very first time. The bold assertion remains. Real estate, approached strategically and over the long term, is still the best route to riches there is.
And our sources are quick to dismantle some common myths that might linger around homeownership, especially after market downturn. It's important to remember that not all real estate news was negative back then. At the time, there were 75 million homeowners in the U.S., and over 90% of them were not in financial distress or foreclosure. The narrative often focused on the negative, but the majority were okay. Furthermore, statistically, the average homeowner consistently boasts a significantly higher net worth than the average renter, a remarkable 46 times higher, according to some analyses cited. That's a huge difference in wealth accumulation. And looking at the broader historical trend, property is appreciated by an average of 5.4% annually over the long term, specifically from 1997 to 2009, even factoring in that significant downturn. This long-term perspective is absolutely crucial when considering real estate as a core wealth-building asset.
Right. And taking a step back to view the broader market context at that time, the prevailing sentiment in 2009 indicated that the dark clouds are clearing for the housing market. By August 2009, the steep decline in home prices had notably slowed down, and both new construction starts and home sales were beginning to climb again, signaling a potential bottoming of the market. This suggested that the worst of the decline was likely over, and conditions were poised for gradual improvement. The author's directive from that period is quite clear and potentially relevant in future downturns. The waiting period is over. It is time for you to act. This really emphasizes the importance of recognizing and seizing opportunities when market conditions inevitably shift. Don't wait for the absolute bottom, which is impossible to predict.
Okay, so the author categorizes people into three main real estate personas to provide more tailored advice. First, if you're an existing homeowner whose property value has decreased, but your goal is to keep the house, you need to ask yourself honestly, can you genuinely afford it? Your total housing costs, that includes mortgage principal and interest, property taxes, homeowner's insurance, and any HOA fees, should not exceed 35% of your gross income, and ideally should be around 25%. That's a key affordability metric. Next, evaluate your current financing. Do you have the best mortgage possible? The author consistently recommended a plain vanilla 15 or 30-year fixed-rate mortgage for its predictability and stability. Avoid exotic loans. While the 15-year mortgage saves significant interest over time, a 30-year option provides considerably lower monthly payments and thus greater flexibility. You always have the option to make extra principal payments to accelerate the payoff if your budget allows. His urgent advice during the historically low rates of 2009 was to refinance, now W. Shop around online using sites like lendingtree.com or bankrate.com, get quotes, and then reach out to your current lender to see if they'll match or beat the offers. Understand the annual percentage rate, APR. Be wary of paying points, upfront fees to lower your interest rate, which may or may not be worth it, and factor in all closing costs. Refinancing typically makes financial sense if your monthly savings will exceed the closing costs within a reasonable time frame. Generally, if the new rate is at least 1 percentage point lower and you plan to remain in the home for more than 3 years. Always request a clear break-even analysis from the lender to confirm the benefit.
That brings us to a really significant and often emotionally charged question. What if your home is underwater, meaning it's worth less than the outstanding balance on your mortgage? Should you just walk away? The author emphatically states that in most cases where you can still afford the payments, this is a huge mistake. He shares the cautionary tale of Adam, who could comfortably afford his $650,000 mortgage payment on a house initially worth $820,000, which had dropped in value to under $600,000. Despite being financially able to continue paying, Adam chose to walk away strategically. The author views this as a profound error, noting it would seriously affect his credit score and potentially keep him from being able to buy a new home for years. The damage to credit from foreclosure or a strategic default is severe and long-lasting. The core advice here is clear and direct. If you can afford the payments, you should strive to keep your house, ride out the market fluctuation. The long-term consequences of walking away, particularly on your credit and future borrowing ability, are often far more detrimental than staying put.
Okay, but what about those genuinely struggling? Those who truly cannot afford their mortgage payments anymore due to job loss or other hardships. For them, the author stresses that doing nothing is the biggest mistake you can make. Burying your head in the sand only makes it worse. He highlighted the federal government's Making Home Affordable program, 2009, accessible at makinghomeaffordable.gov, which was specifically designed to assist millions of Americans facing foreclosure. This program included two key components. First, HARP, Home Affordable Refinance Program. This was aimed at homeowners whose mortgages were owned or guaranteed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, allowing them to refinance even if they had little or no equity left in their homes. You could check eligibility online and then contact your loan servicer. The other major component was HAMP-HI Home Affordable Modification Program. This was a $75 billion initiative dedicated to preventing foreclosures by modifying the terms of existing mortgages to make payments more affordable. Similar to HARP, it offered an online self-assessment tool to help homeowners determine potential eligibility. Now, if your lender proves unhelpful or unresponsive, the next crucial step recommended is to contact a HUD-approved housing counselor. These services are generally free. You can find one through HUD.gov or by calling 800-569-4287. For truly urgent help, the Homeowners HOPE hotline at 888-995. HOPE was also available as a critical resource.
Right. And while difficult, sometimes selling your home is the only truly viable option. It's important to remember that even in a tough market, it's not easy, but it can be done. Our source offers 5 key strategies for effectively selling a home in a challenging buyer's market. First, get professional help. Don't try to go it alone. Hire a top local real estate agent with a verifiable, proven track record in your specific neighborhood. Ask for proof of their recent listings, average time on market, and successful sales price compared to listing price. Second, price it right. This is absolutely critical. Resist the temptation to price your home based on what it might have been worth at the peak in 2007 or 2008. Thoroughly research recent comparable sales in your immediate area using sites like Trulia.com or Zillow.com to set a competitive, realistic price from the start. Overpricing kills interest. Third, stage it. Presentation matters hugely. This means cleaning meticulously, applying fresh, neutral paint, often white is recommended, removing all personal clutter, and seriously considering hiring a professional stager. While it might cost a few $1,000s, professional staging statistically helps homes sell faster and often for a better price by creating that clean, clutter-free, neutral palette that allows potential buyers to envision themselves living there. Resources like IASSP.com, International Association of Home Staging Professionals, can help find qualified stagers. Fourth, consider an auction. For certain types of properties and in certain market conditions, an auction can generate significant excitement and interest, especially if you start with a lower, attention-grabbing price. You can find reputable real estate auctioneers through organizations like the National Auctioneers Association, NaraRealestateAuctions.com. Fifth, and an often overlooked strategy, is to lease it with a purchase option. This can be a win-win scenario, especially if you have little equity or need to move but can't sell immediately. You lease the property at a fair market rent, ideally covering your mortgage and expenses, and the tenant receives an option to buy the property at a predetermined price within a specific time frame. Often, a portion of their rent payments can be credited towards the purchase price, incentivizing them to buy. This provides flexibility and potential income for you, and a path to ownership for the tenant.
Okay, what about for those currently renting? The author makes a pretty strong case against long-term renting. He says, I don't believe in renting long-term. His argument is direct. When you rent, you are essentially paying someone else's mortgage, their property taxes, and their maintenance expenses. Meanwhile, your landlord enjoys an appreciating asset, hopefully, built partly with your rent payments. He frames it as a clear choice with vastly different long-term financial outcomes. While rents typically increase over time, often around 4% annually historically, owning often proved more financially advantageous if you plan to stay in one location for at least a few years. This is particularly true when you factor in tax benefits like the mortgage interest deduction, and back in 2009, the temporary $8,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit. So the question shifts from, can I afford to own, to a more provocative, what makes you think you can afford to rent indefinitely? Wait, when calculating affordability for ownership, you need to factor in not just the mortgage principal and interest, but also property taxes, homeowner's insurance, and estimated maintenance costs. Again, that guideline is key.
Total housing costs should ideally be 25% or less of your gross income, and certainly not exceed 35%. And critically, before taking the leap into homeownership, accumulate at least 6 months' worth of those projected housing expenses as a financial cushion, an emergency fund specifically for housing costs, before you buy.
Absolutely. And for aspiring first-time home buyers, it's important to note that even in tighter lending environments, banks are generally still lending. However, credit guidelines are definitely stricter now, demanding detailed documentation of income, assets, and debts. The most crucial piece of advice here is to shop for your mortgage loan before you even start seriously looking at houses. Get pre-approved by a lender. This means submitting your financial documentation upfront and getting a written commitment from the lender for a specific loan amount. This clarifies your budget realistically and significantly strengthens your purchase offer when you find the right home. Regarding down payments, while 10% is often recommended, even by financial giants like Warren Buffett, and 20% is even better as it typically eliminates the need for private mortgage insurance, PMI. It's worth noting that lower down payment options exist. For example, 3% down, or even less in some cases, might be possible with FHA-insured loans or VA loans for veterans. Check FHA.gov and homeloans.va.gov. Loan limits for these programs were also increased back in 2009 to reflect higher housing costs in many areas. Now, for existing homeowners contemplating buying a bigger home, that specific market period presented a potentially phenomenal opportunity due to lower prices and rates. However, a vital word of caution is issued. Unless you possess the clear financial capacity to comfortably carry 2 mortgages simultaneously, your old one and the new one, do not purchase a new home until your current one is definitively sold or has a closing date. Be extremely realistic about the local rental market if you're considering renting out your old home. Vacancies and repair costs can quickly eat into profits. Yet connecting this to the bigger picture, if you can comfortably carry 2 properties, Our source suggests this could be a great time for you to rent your current home, buy another one to live in, and thus become a real estate investor. This specific type of market with lower entry prices potentially provides an opportunity for average people to become millionaires through real estate investing over the long term.
Interesting. So for those specifically interested in investing in real estate beyond just their primary residence,
the core advice is generally to invest in a market you intimately understand often. That means your own backyard. Focus on identifying motivated sellers, perhaps individuals facing circumstances like divorce, job loss, or estate sales, as they may be more flexible on price. Or explore bank-owned properties, including short sales, where the bank agrees to a sale for less than the mortgage owed, and foreclosures. Numerous online platforms like AOL Real Estate, back then Zillow, Trulia, and others can assist in identifying such opportunities. The author noted that the landlord game is back in vogue during that period, driven by potentially good rental returns relative to lower purchase prices. Now, if the idea of directly managing properties, dealing with tenants and toilets isn't appealing, real estate investment trusts, REITs, offer an excellent alternative. REITs allow you to gain diversified exposure to real estate, like shopping centers, office buildings, apartments, through publicly traded shares, much like stocks, without the direct management burden. The REIT market experienced a significant rebound after the crash, jumping over 100% from its March 2009 lows. He specifically recommended considering index funds or ETFs for broad exposure and lower costs, citing examples like the Cohen and Steers Realty Major Index Fund, ICF, or the Vanguard REIT Index, VGSAS. For additional insights and practical guidance on real estate, you can also explore the free real estate webisodes mentioned as being available at finishrich.com.
Okay, great advice there. So if your actionable takeaways specifically for rebuilding with real estate. First, meticulously calculate your total, current, or projected housing cost. Aim to keep them at 25% or less of your gross monthly income. Second, if you're an existing homeowner, investigate refinancing if you can find a new interest rate that is at least 1 full percentage point lower than your current one, ensuring that your long-term savings definitively offset any closing costs. Stick to stable, predictable fixed rate, 30-year mortgages. Third, if you find yourself genuinely struggling with an unaffordable mortgage, do not delay. Seek immediate assistance from reputable resources like makinghomeaffordable.gov or current government programs, HUD.gov housing counselors, or the Homeowners Hope Hotline, or similar current crisis lines. And finally, if you are preparing to buy a home, proactively set aside at least 6 months of your projected housing expenses as that crucial financial cushion before you make that significant leap. Be prepared.
Right. Now let's move on to another major financial challenge for many families. Step 9, rebuild your college fund and restructure your student loan. Look, saving for college is a monumental task even in the best of economic times. After periods of turmoil where existing college funds likely took a significant hit, it can feel downright impossible. However, the core message from our sources remains optimistic and empowering. You can regain the ground you lost and still find ways to secure your children's educational future. It requires strategy and persistence.
Yeah, and the striking reality here is just how rapidly and substantially the cost of higher education has escalated over the decades and continues to rise. Back in 2009, a typical 4-year private college education was already approaching $130,000 for 4 years, while state schools averaged around $54,000. Projections at that time indicated that by 2024, these figures could easily soar past $200,000 and $100,000 respectively, and we know costs have continued to climb since then. This exponential growth means that relying solely on scholarships and student loans is increasingly insufficient for most families. A dedicated savings plan is absolutely essential. The market downturn particularly impacted popular college savings vehicles like 529 plans. Funds invested in these tax-deferred accounts experienced average drops of over 20% between Q1 2008 and Q1 2009. This significant loss understandably unnerved many parents, causing new investments into these plans to plummet by 40% during that period. Unfortunately, many then retreated to the perceived safety of traditional savings accounts, inadvertently missing out on the substantial tax advantages unique to 529 plans.
That's right. And according to our sources, 529 plans are still considered by far the best way to save for college, despite market fluctuations. There are broadly 2 main categories of 529s. First, you have prepaid tuition programs, which were offered in about 19 states back then. These allow you to essentially lock in future tuition rates at today's prices, providing a hedge against rising costs even if your child attends college many years down the line. Second, there are savings plans available in nearly all states, all but Washington at the time. These function more like Roth IRAs for college. They are tax-deferred savings vehicles, typically invested in a range of mutual fund options. You can contribute a substantial amount to these plans, often over $300,000 per beneficiary over time. The key advantages are really compelling. The money grows entirely tax-free at the federal level, and withdrawals are also completely tax-free, provided they are used for qualified college expenses: tuition, fees, room, board, books, supplies, etc. While your contributions aren't deductible on your federal tax return, many state governments offer their own state income tax deductions or credits for contributions made to their state's plan, which can be a significant additional benefit depending on where you live. The main drawback, of course, is that if the funds are not used for qualified educational expenses, the earnings portion of the withdrawal is subject to ordinary income tax plus a 10% penalty. However, 529 plans offer crucial flexibility. They're generally easy to move from one beneficiary to another. This means if one child doesn't go to college or gets a full scholarship, you can typically transfer the funds to a sibling, another eligible family member, or even use them for your own education later on.
Okay, so if 529s are the way to go, how do you choose the right one? There are so many options out there.
That's a great question. Fortunately, there are excellent independent resources available to help you compare. Informational websites like savingforcollege.com offer valuable comparisons of plan features, investment options, and crucially, fees, which can vary significantly. Morningstar.com provides in-depth analysis of the underlying fund diversification, historical performance, and manager quality. The College Savings Plan Network, collegesavings.org, which is affiliated with the National Association of State Treasurers, also provides comprehensive comparisons and links to virtually every state's 529 plan. Back in 2009, for reference, Morningstar highlighted their top 5 rated plans, which included Ohio College Advantage, Indiana College Choice 529 Direct, Utah Educational Savings Plan Trust, Virginia Education Savings Trust, and Virginia College America 529. Looking at lists like these from reputable sources can provide a useful benchmark for comparison, though you should always do your own due diligence based on your specific needs and state tax benefits.
All right. Now, our sources also highlight 5 crucial shifts or considerations for college saving strategies, especially relevant after periods of market volatility or when you're restarting. What are those?
Yes, these are really important points. First, and this is identified as the single biggest mistake parents often make, is the order of your financial priorities. Save for college after your emergency account is fully funded and your retirement plan is on solid footing. The rationale is stark but simple. You can borrow money for college through student loans, federal and private, but you absolutely cannot borrow money for unexpected life emergencies or to fund your retirement years. Your retirement security has to come first. Additionally, prioritize paying off high-interest debt, like credit cards, before aggressively saving for college. Second, make sure your college savings plan isn't too aggressive, especially as the child gets closer to needing the money. Just like retirement plans, your college savings portfolio should gradually shift from potentially aggressive growth-oriented investments when the child is young to more conservative capital preservation investments as the target enrollment date nears. The general recommendation is to significantly reduce the stock allocation starting around the child's age of 13, aiming for perhaps less than 25% in stocks by the time they are 17 and about to enroll. Regularly review your plan's asset allocation strategy or glide path to ensure it aligns with this principle. Third, pay closer attention than you might think, even with automatic features. While automation is generally key, automatic rebalancing features within some 529 plans could potentially be problematic in highly volatile markets if they rigidly force the selling of stocks at a significant loss just to maintain a target allocation. So the advice is, you need to examine your college funds periodically and understand exactly how their rebalancing mechanisms work, perhaps overriding them in extreme market conditions if appropriate and allowed.
Prioritize retirement, manage risk, pay attention. What else?
Fourth, be wary of prepaid tuition plans. While conceptually appealing, locking in tuition rates, in the aftermath of the 2008 market meltdown, many of these state-run plans found themselves on financially shaky ground. Examples were cited in states like Alabama and West Virginia. Only a handful of states offered explicit guarantees or bailouts for their plans back in 2009, and even those guarantees might not hold firm during severe, prolonged economic distress or state budget crises. So the advice is to think twice and thoroughly research the financial health, funding status, and guarantee structure of any prepaid plan before committing significant funds. Savings plans, the investment type, generally offer more control and portability. Fifth, and this is really empowering, don't assume you have to do it all yourself. There are various avenues for additional support in funding college. For instance, grandparents are often a willing and untapped resource. One survey indicated 60% are open to contributing to their grandchildren's education if asked directly. Innovative websites were emerging too, like greatfund.com, which aim to empower students to raise money by recruiting friends and family to sponsor their good grades performance-based funding. And platforms like uppromise.com, which is now part of Sallie Mae, offer a unique way to earn cashback rewards, sometimes up to 25%, from everyday activities like shopping online, dining out, and buying groceries through their network of partners. These accumulated rewards can then be directed to fund 529 accounts, pay down existing student loans, or directly cover college expenses. The author stressed this is not a gimmick. By 2009, UpPromise had already paid out over $500 million in rewards to families. Look for similar programs today.
That's helpful. But what about the other side of the coin dealing with existing student loan debt, especially if you're struggling?
Right, that's a critical piece. To connect this to the bigger picture, the default rate for student loans had been soaring even before the worst of the 2008 recession fully hit. It reached 1 in 14 borrowers, over 230,000 individuals defaulting annually back then. And the numbers have only grown since. This means if you're currently struggling with student loan debt, please know you're not alone. It's a widespread issue. The single most crucial piece of advice here, emphasized strongly, is to be totally straight with your lender. Don't ignore the problem or hide from the calls. Ignoring the situation inevitably leads down a damaging path. Delinquency, then default, a potentially ruined credit score for years, wage garnishment, seizure of tax refunds, and even lawsuits. However, proactively notifying your lender about your struggles opens up a surprisingly wide range of alternative repayment options and potential pathways to relief. Communication is key.
Okay, so what are some of those options? What does this mean in terms of practical solutions if you're struggling with student loan payments?
Well, the good news is you may be able to switch to a more manageable repayment plan without necessarily hurting your credit score, provided you meet the specific criteria for federal loans primarily. The main alternatives available back then, and many similar options exist today, included extended repayment. This allows borrowers with higher debt levels, over $30,000 then, to extend their repayment periods significantly, maybe up to 30 years. This results in lower monthly payments, though you typically end up paying more total interest over the longer term. Graduated repayment. This also extends the term potentially up to 30 years, but the payments start low and then gradually increase every 2 years. This can be helpful if you expect your income to rise over time. Income contingent repayment, ICR. This was designed particularly for those in public service or lower paying jobs. Your monthly payment is calculated based on your annual income and family size, ensuring it's affordable. Any outstanding loan balance remaining after 25 years of payments could potentially be forgiven, though the forgiven amount might be taxable. Income-sensitive repayment, ISR. This offered a shorter-term solution primarily for low-income borrowers, capping monthly payments at a percentage, maybe 25% of their gross monthly income. Income-based repayment, IBR. This newer plan at the time limited monthly payments to just 15% of your discretionary income, defined as earnings above 150% of the federal poverty line for your family size. If your income was below that threshold, your required payment could be zero. Like ICR, it had a maximum repayment period, 25 years then, after which any remaining balance might be forgiven.
Wow, lots of options. What if you literally can't pay anything right now?
Even then, there are safety nets, primarily for federal loans. Deferment. If you have direct government loans, you can apply for deferment before you default. This allows you to postpone your payments entirely for a period, often up to 3 years, without interest accruing on subsidized loans and without damaging your credit score. However, you generally need to prove economic hardship based on specific criteria. Forbearance. This is another option, sometimes available for private lenders or if you don't qualify for deferment on federal loans. Forbearance allows you to suspend or reduce your payments temporarily, typically for up to a year at a time. But here's the critical difference. Interest usually continues to accrue during forbearance and is then added to your loan balance, capitalized, increasing the total amount you owe. So it should be used cautiously.
Okay. Is there any chance you could, as the source asks, get off the hook entirely for student loans?
It sounds too good to be true, but yes, it's a surprising possibility for some individuals in specific situations. Various federal and state programs offer loan forgiveness for individuals who commit to working in certain public service careers for a set number of years. Think teaching in underserved areas, nursing, military service, working for government agencies, or qualifying nonprofits. Additionally, volunteer organizations like AmeriCorps and the Peace Corps also have programs that can lead to partial loan forgiveness or stipends to help with repayment. The specific rules, eligibility requirements, and service commitments vary significantly by program, so thorough research is essential. And even if you've already defaulted on a student loan, don't give up hope entirely. The author encourages you to still call your lender or the collection agency. They may be willing to work out a rehabilitation plan or settlement if you can demonstrate a renewed commitment to making consistent payments. Ultimately, despite the challenges of cost and debt, higher education is consistently framed by our source as one of the best investments you can make in yourself in terms of increasing your lifetime earning potential and achieving your full personal and professional capabilities. The overarching message is clear. Do not allow the perceived cost or the burden of existing debt to completely thwart your ambitions or your children's future educational opportunities. Explore all the available options for saving and repayment.
Right. Okay, so for your actionable takeaways on rebuilding your college fund and restructuring student loans. Firstly, commit to utilizing tax advantage 529 plans as your primary vehicle for college savings, leveraging their significant benefits. Secondly, actively manage your 529 plan's stock allocation, ensuring it appropriately shifts to a more conservative stance, ideally less than 25% in stocks by the time your child reaches age 17 and is close to needing the funds. Monitor the plan's automatic rebalancing features, and most importantly, if you're currently grappling with burdensome student loan debt, do not struggle in silence or ignore the problem. Proactively investigate the wide range of repayment options available, particularly for federal loans, to find a plan that fits your current financial reality and prevents default.
Excellent summary. Now, you've come an incredible distance on this deep dive, laying a really solid foundation. To truly supercharge your financial plan and find some immediate wins, we turn to step 10, 25 ways to save $5,000 or more. This step is all about finding quick, actionable ways to cut your overhead and immediately redirect those savings directly back into your pocket towards your bigger goals like debt reduction or investing. The author shares a formidable list, 25 specific tactics, asserting that if you implement just a few, you could easily save thousands annually. And if you really commit and take on many of them, you could potentially save over $15,000 a year. Some are described as no-brainers, while others require a bit more effort but offer bigger payoffs. What truly stands out here is the claim that implementing the tips in this step alone could save you at least 10 times the cost of this book, and more than likely 100 times what you paid. It's positioned as high-impact, immediate return advice.
Okay, 25 ways is a lot to cover in detail, but let's maybe highlight some key categories and really impactful examples that capture the spirit of this step. Where should people focus first?
Absolutely. Let's group them into major categories for clarity. One huge area is optimizing your recurring bills and memberships. These are often autopilot expenses that creep up over time. 1. Reevaluate your cable and telecom. Seriously, look at that premium cable TV package. Does it cost $100 a month? Could you downgrade to a basic plan for maybe $20? Cut the extra DVRs or remotes. Many people can save $600 a year or more just by doing this. The author himself saved $87 a month or $900 a year. Action. Call your provider, ask for retention deals, downgrade, or even switch providers. Similarly, get real about your cell phone plan. The average user back then only used about 1/3 of their allotted minutes. Are you paying for unlimited data you don't use? Downgrade your plan, e.g. from a $60 plan to a $40 plan. This can easily save $240 annually. Action. Review your usage online. Call your carrier or check comparison sites like billshrink.com or modern equivalents. And consider ditching your landline altogether. If your cell phone covers all your needs, that could save another $240 a year, $20 a month, or at least downgrade to the most basic service possible. Action. Cancel or downgrade. Conversely, if you do need multiple services, look into bundling your telecom services, combine phone, internet, and cable TV. Many providers offer triple play packages that can significantly cut your combined monthly bill. The author mentions a friend who saved $1,500 annually, from $375 down to $250 a month. Action. Call various carriers, cable, phone, satellite, and ask specifically about bundling options and introductory offers. 2. Rethink unused subscriptions and memberships. Do you have an unused gym membership bleeding $50 or more from your account each month? Cancel it, or at least try to negotiate a lower price or switch to a cheaper option like running shoes. This alone can save $600 annually. Action. Be honest about your usage, negotiate with the gym manager, or formally cancel. Also, identify and ruthlessly cancel any unused magazine, newspaper, or streaming subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, etc. if you're not fully utilizing them or could share accounts. This can easily free up another $400 a year or more. Action. Go through your bank credit card statements, identify recurring charges, and cancel them online or by phone. Expect them to offer you half-price deals to resubscribe. Maybe take them if you actually use the service.
Those are great starting points. What's another big category for savings?
Another crucial area is shopping smart for insurance and financial services. These often involve large annual premiums or fees where shopping around can yield huge savings. 3. Shop your insurance. Your car insurance and homeowners insurance premiums can vary wildly between providers for the exact same coverage. Don't just auto-renew. Take 10-15 minutes once a year to shop online using comparison sites like netquote.com, insurance.com, the Zebra, etc., or get direct quotes from major carriers. Geico, Allstate, Progressive, State Farm, etc. Then, armed with those quotes, call your current carrier and ask them to beat the best price you found. Often they will, to keep your business. The author's assistant apparently saved $800 in just 10 minutes on car insurance. Also, consider raising your deductibles, the amount you pay out of pocket before insurance kicks in, on both auto and home insurance, say from $500 to $1,000 or even $2,500 if you have a solid emergency fund. This can often reduce your premiums by 10%, 20%, or even more. Check for discounts too, bundling home and auto, security systems, good student, etc. For car insurance, investigate usage-based programs like Progressive's MyRate or similar modern telematics programs that offer discounts for safe, low-mileage driving. Action. Get quotes online phone. Call current carrier. Ask about deductibles and discounts. Similarly, shop for your life insurance, especially term life. Premiums had fallen significantly, 20-50% mentioned, due to increased life expectancy. If you have an older policy, get fresh quotes online. Sites like findmyinsurance.com, Policy Genius, Select Quote. Call your current carrier to see if they can match a better offer. This could save $500 or more annually on a substantial policy. Action. Get quotes, call current carrier. 4. Eliminate bank and credit card fees. Actively work to lower your credit card interest rates and eliminate fees. As we discussed back in Step 3, successfully negotiating your APR down can save hundreds or thousands in interest annually. Example given. A $5,000 balance at 23% APR costs $645 in interest over a year versus only $275 at 10% APR. That's $370 saved right there. Also, rigorously avoid late fees, often $34 plus, and over-limit fees, $37 plus. Action. Follow Step 3 advice to call and negotiate rates, set up automatic minimum payments, Step 7, and politely ask for credits if you accidentally incur a fee once, and stop paying unnecessary debit card and ATM fees. Banks collect billions each year from overdraft fees, average $34, hitting someone twice a month costs $68, and those annoying foreign ATM fees, $3 plus per use. Action. Review your bank statements carefully. Switch to a bank that offers free overdraft protection linked to savings or has a large free ATM network or even credits back fees charged by other banks' ATMs. The author claims he saves $200 a year this way. And don't forget to cash in your points. Check the balances on your credit card rewards, frequent flyer miles, hotel loyalty programs. These are often unused assets that can be redeemed for hundreds, even thousands of dollars in value for travel, gift cards, or statement credits. The author found he had 725,000 unused points. Action. Call your credit card company's airlines or check online for point statements and redemption options. Make sure you're enrolled in relevant loyalty programs.
Okay. Bills and financial services. Where else can people find significant savings or even generate some extra cash?
Let's look at optimizing daily habits and leveraging existing resources. These are often smaller changes that add up significantly over time. 5. Smart commuting and meal prep. If your commute allows, try to carpool to work even just a couple of days a week. Sharing the ride and gas costs can save the average commuter over $380 a year in gas alone, plus wear and tear. Action. Connect with coworkers or use sites like erideshare.com or carpoolworld.com or modern apps. A timeless, powerful tip: bring your lunch to work. As the author's grandmother famously demonstrated, becoming a millionaire partly by doing this, skipping a $9 daily lunch purchase adds up to $2,250 saved per year. Invested over 20 years, that could become over $111,000. Action. Cook extra dinner and pack leftovers, make sandwiches, stock your work fridge. Consider telecommuting to work a few days a week if your job and employer allow. Working from home just 2 days a week could eliminate 3,000 miles of driving annually for some, saving $430 or more in gas, plus tolls, parking, and maintenance. It often benefits the employer too with increased productivity. Action. Research company policy, build a case for a trial program. Resources like quintcareers.com, telcoa.org had tips. 6. Household savings and found money. Lower your utility bill with a free or low-cost energy audit. Many utility companies offer these services. An audit can identify air leaks, insulation gaps, and inefficient appliances, potentially saving you up to 30% on your energy bills. Ceiling leaks and adding insulation alone can save 20%. The author's friend apparently saved $55 one month, $660 a year. Action. Call your utility company, check EnergyStar.gov or ear.energy.gov for tips and local programs. And a simple but often overlooked one, stop playing lotto regularly. Americans spent a staggering $57 billion on lotteries in 2006, averaging nearly $500 per household. The odds are astronomical. It's simply not a wealth-building strategy. It's entertainment with a very high cost. Keeping that $500 in your pocket or investing it is a guaranteed return. Action. Read the actual odds, keep the money in your wallet or savings account. 7. Generate income from existing resources. Have a garage sale or, more effectively perhaps, sell unwanted items online via eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Poshmark, etc. Clear clutter and make cash. The average active eBay seller back then earned $210 from their sales. Action. Declutter, take photos, list items online, or plan a neighborhood yard sale. YardSaleQueen.com had tips. Check local consignment shops for clothing or furniture. Also, explore reclaiming abandoned property. State governments hold billions, estimated $33 billion then, in unclaimed property dormant bank accounts, uncashed paychecks or dividend checks, insurance refunds, utility deposits, safe deposit box contents. About 1 in 8 people might have unclaimed funds waiting. The average claim is around $250. Action. Visit unclaimed.org, official site of the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators, to search by state for free. It only takes a few minutes. 8. Leverage employer benefits. Don't leave free money on the table. Make sure you are getting your full 401k match from your employer. This is literally part of your compensation package. Many employers match 50% or even 100% of your contributions up to a certain percentage of your salary. Contribution limits were $16,500 in 2009 for under 50s, much higher now. For someone earning an average salary, $37K then, getting a typical match could mean an extra $4,480 or more deposited into their retirement account each year. Action. Call HR or check your benefits portal immediately, find out your company's match formula, and ensure you're contributing at least enough to capture the entire match. Maximize it if possible. 9. Explore rental savings and driving smart. If you rent, especially in certain markets or during economic downturns, consider trying to renegotiate your rent when your lease is up for renewal. Rents had fallen in some markets back then due to the recession, making landlords more desperate to keep good tenants. NYC landlords were reportedly offering 20% discounts. Even potentially breaking a lease to move to a cheaper place could save money long-term, despite penalties. Action. Research current local rental rates for comparable units. Sites like rentometer.com, Zilpie.com then, ZillowApartments.com now. Build a polite case with your landlord for a discount or stable rent. Finally, drive smart to save on gas and maintenance. Simple things like maintaining proper tire pressure and keeping your air filter clean can improve gas mileage by 10%. Avoiding aggressive driving, rapid acceleration, and braking costs fuel estimated 20 cents a gallon for every 5 miler over 60 millifiler. And remove unnecessary heavy cargo from your trunk or roof rack. Action. Check tire pressure monthly, get regular tune-ups, use cruise control, plan routes efficiently. Calculate potential savings at fueleconomy.gov.
Wow, that's a really comprehensive list of possibilities, covering everything from big bills to daily habits. Now here's the challenge the author directly puts forth to you, the listener. Did you just flip through this chapter, or have you already started implementing these money-saving tips? The goal here isn't just knowledge, it's immediate action. He urges you to pick 3 things from this chapter that you can do this week. Then pick one that you will do right now, before you even finish listening to this, maybe. And for a bit of community inspiration, if you find success with any of these strategies, he suggested posting your story on facebook.com/David Bach, or perhaps a similar modern forum, to share your insights and motivate others.
Exactly. It's about building momentum. Okay, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, haven't we? From resetting your financial mindset in step 1, all the way through finding money, tackling debt, fixing credit, building savings, re-energizing retirement, automating everything, rethinking real estate, planning for college, and now finding thousands in savings. It's a full financial overhaul.
It really is. And now we arrive at what the author considers a crucial, though perhaps unexpected, final piece of the puzzle. Bonus step 11. Find your power. Give to others. This final step in your journey to truly starting over and finishing rich seems to transcend mere financial mechanics. It's about profoundly reconnecting with your own personal power and sense of purpose. Our sources underscore the wisdom often attributed to Sir John Templeton. The secret to life is to become a go-giver, not just a go-getter. The act of contributing to the betterment of the world, even in seemingly small ways, can fundamentally shift our focus from doubt and worry to courage and strength. It changes our perspective.
Yeah, and it's natural, I think, to have that almost knee-jerk reaction and think, wait, how can I possibly consider giving anything away right now when I'm desperately trying to rebuild my own finances, just start over myself?
That apprehension is entirely understandable, particularly when you're feeling financially vulnerable or stretched thin. However, the author posits a really compelling counterargument here. He suggests that within each and every one of us lies the power to not only change our own destinies, but also to change the destinies of others. It's two sides of the same coin. If you truly believe you have the power to change your own situation, which you must to take on these steps, then logically, he argues, you must also believe you have the power to impact others, even in small ways. Recalling our very first step, your inherent spirit, the one listening and engaging right now, is strong, determined, resilient, and smart, evidenced simply by your commitment to this deep dive to learning and growing. The world, he suggests, needs more heroes like you, people taking positive action. There's also profound wisdom in John D. Rockefeller's observation.
Think of giving not as a duty, but as a privilege. From this perspective, giving becomes less of an obligation and more of a powerful catalyst, a proven way, according to the author, to attract more happiness and opportunity into your life. It's about fundamentally shifting from a scarcity mindset, I don't have enough, to one of abundance and contribution. I have something to offer.
Okay, so how does this translate into practical action for someone who's maybe just starting to rebuild? It feels like a big leap.
It doesn't have to be. The simple starting point proposed is this. Decide today to give back a consistent percentage of your income, however small. It could literally be 1% or maybe 10% if you're further along. The exact amount is far less critical than the commitment to give something consistently, whatever you can genuinely afford without jeopardizing your own recovery. It's actually noteworthy that Americans collectively donated nearly $309 billion back in 2008, even right in the midst of a significant recession. This really demonstrates that inherent human impulse to help others, even in tough times. And, as with so many other crucial steps in this deep dive, like saving and investing, the key to making giving sustainable is to make it automatic. Consistent commitment is paramount. Arrange for a set percentage or a fixed dollar amount to be automatically deducted from your paycheck, if possible through workplace giving programs, or transferred from your checking account directly to your chosen charity each month. If you just wait to see what is left over at the end of the month, the reality is you will likely end up donating far less, if anything at all. Life gets in the way. Automating ensures your intention translates into action.
Right. Automate the giving too. But how do you choose where to give? And how do you make sure your donation is actually making a difference?
Excellent questions. It's important to give strategically and effectively. When selecting a charity, the author advises first choosing causes that genuinely resonate with your heart, issues you truly care about. Maybe it's supporting your local food bank, your church or religious institution, a homeless shelter in your community, or perhaps larger, well-known national or international charities like United Way, Goodwill, the Salvation Army, or Doctors Without Borders. Align your giving with your values. Crucially, though, always ensure you are giving to a reputable, effective charity. A general guideline, often supported by independent charity watchdog organizations, is that a well-run nonprofit should allocate at least 70-75% of the money it collects directly to its stated programs and cause, meaning administrative and fundraising expenses should ideally be 25% or less of their budget. Don't hesitate to ask to see the financials or look them up online. Most reputable charities make their financial statements, like IRS Form 990, publicly available. If a charity is unwilling to provide transparency about how they use donations, it's generally a clear sign to find one that will. There are excellent online resources specifically designed for vetting charities and checking their effectiveness and financial health. These include sites like justgive.org, which had links to over 1 million charities, bbb.org charity, the Better Business Bureau Wise Giving Alliance, which certifies BBB-accredited charities, GuideStar.org, a huge database of nonprofit information, CharityNavigator.org, which evaluates the financial health and transparency of thousands of charities, and NetworkForGood.org, offering research tools and secure online donation processing. Using these resources helps ensure your donation makes the maximum impact.
It's interesting how the author shares his own personal journey with giving back, not really as a boast, but more as an illustration of how this can work. He mentions donating royalties from his various books to different causes he cared about. His book, The Automatic Millionaire Homeowner, led him to support Habitat for Humanity New York, where he helped sponsor the construction of an entire building for 8 deserving families in the South Bronx. That's impactful. His book, Go Green, Live Rich, supported the Waterkeeper Alliance, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr.'s organization dedicated to protecting waterways globally. Smart Women Finish Rich inspired his involvement with Makers of Memories, a charity helping victims of domestic violence experience their first ever vacations. And the proceeds from the very book that forms the basis of much of this deep dive, Start Over, Finish Rich, were dedicated to supporting charity. Water, charitywater.org, specifically funding the construction of a critical water well in Africa, providing clean water to a community. This array of causes really exemplifies his point. You can genuinely choose a cause you care about and get involved with both your time and your money, aligning your financial life with your values.
Absolutely. And it's so important to remember that if your financial situation currently prevents you from giving money, donating your time and talents is an equally, if not sometimes more, valuable contribution. The author strongly believes that volunteering your time can often bring even greater joy and personal fulfillment than simply writing a check. And practically speaking, your skills and effort can often be more useful to a nonprofit than a small cash donation, while also having far more of an impact on you, the giver, through connection and direct experience. Websites like volunteermatch.org, idealist.org, charities.org, America's Charities, nationalservice.gov, nvoad.org, National Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster, mentoring.org, and score.org, offering business expertise to entrepreneurs, provide a plethora of opportunities to find volunteer roles that match your skills and interests, both locally and nationally. And for those who are able to contribute financially, remember the added practical benefit. Charitable contributions to qualified organizations can reduce your taxable income. Just ensure the recipient is a registered IRS 501c3 public charity. You can verify the status via IRS Publication 78 or online tools, and diligently keep all your receipts or acknowledgments for tax purposes. It's worth noting, however, that while financial contributions are often tax deductible, the value of time donated generally is not deductible for tax purposes, though related out-of-pocket expenses might be.
Okay, so what's the ultimate takeaway from this bonus but clearly important step?
The author states it quite unequivocally. Giving, in his view, is not optional if you truly want to live a rich life, defined broadly beyond just money. It is, paradoxically perhaps, the fastest way to feel rich, to feel abundance, purpose, and connection. And maybe counterintuitively, he observes that those who consistently practice generosity often find that they become rich faster themselves, possibly due to mindset shifts, networking effects, or just the positive energy it creates. Research, he notes, consistently indicates that givers tend to live longer, happier, and wealthier lives. The final invitation here is to go with the flow of the universe, to consciously embrace this principle of contribution and generosity as part of your financial recovery. He believes it will not only accelerate your financial progress, but, perhaps more importantly, imbue the entire journey with far more joy and profound fulfillment.
Wow. What a truly transformative deep dive we've really embarked on today. It feels like we've covered so much ground. We've journeyed through that critical act of recommitting to your financial future, diligently finding where your money is and where it actually goes, strategically tackling burdensome credit card debt, meticulously fixing and protecting your vital credit score, rebuilding those essential emergency savings, and actively re-energizing your long-term retirement plan. We then explore the paramount importance of making your entire financial life run on autopilot, delving into the powerful potential of rebuilding wealth through real estate, when approached strategically, thoughtfully planning and saving for college, and uncovering a multitude of really smart practical strategies to save thousands of dollars annually. And finally, we discovered the profound and often overlooked power of giving back to others as a way to reconnect with our own strength and purpose.
Absolutely. And reflecting on this comprehensive 11-step plus bonus framework, it becomes really clear that the path to financial freedom and a truly rich life, in every sense of the word, is entirely within your grasp, even after experiencing significant setbacks. It's not easy, but it's possible. Our author himself shared a powerful story of experiencing a profound personal start-over moment. It involved a brutal decision, navigating his divorce back in 2007. He describes being utterly frozen with worry, grappling with financial losses stemming from the situation, and feeling as though all his well-honed financial tools and knowledge had suddenly failed him in his personal life. His turning point, his moment of clarity, arrived when he dedicated 6 solid hours simply to creating a gratitude list. He meticulously wrote down every single positive aspect of his life he could think of. His beloved son, Jack, his supportive family and friends, the good times and memories shared even with his ex-wife, and the deep meaning and purpose he found in his work helping others with their finances. Through this simple but profound process, he realized who I was indivisible. He understood that his core self was intact, separate from the external circumstances. He acknowledged that he could re-earn money, he could rebuild his business, he could eventually purchase a new home. He affirmed to himself, I could survive this. This deep realization, rooted in gratitude, empowered him to truly start over and ultimately thrive again. It allowed him to navigate the difficult divorce process more constructively and reprioritize his life, focusing on what mattered most, ultimately becoming, in his words, a better father. He now emphatically states that he is truly living rich in experiences, relationships, and gratitude, and feels truly grateful for the journey, including the challenges. This powerful personal narrative really reinforces a universal truth that applies to all of us. The journey of falling down and getting up again happens to all of us. It's part of the human experience. The most profound fruit of life, the true blessings and growth, often emerge most vividly, not despite the falls, but precisely because we choose consciously to get back up again.
That's such a powerful closing thought. Life is simply too short, isn't it, to stay down for long. Whatever financial setbacks or losses you may have experienced in the past few years, those experiences, that pain, it's behind you now. You survived it. If it was money you lost, remember that you possess the capacity, the skills, the potential to generate more income and rebuild what was diminished over time. Money can be replaced. Far more important than any material loss is the inner strength, the resilience you possess, the love you hold within you and share with others, for it is ultimately that inner power that will carry you through the toughest times. Focus consciously on what is currently working in your life, however small it may seem, and cultivate profound gratitude for it daily. And if you ever find yourself feeling truly stuck, overwhelmed by negativity or fear, remember the author's simple yet transformative exercise. Pull out a pad of paper or open a note on your phone and just begin to list everything, absolutely everything you have to be grateful for right now. Keep going until you feel a shift.
Take this deep dive. Embrace these actionable steps we've discussed. Hold on to your dreams fiercely and give yourself permission to truly start over. You absolutely can do it.